The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Excuse me for interrupting, but before we start the show today, I just wanted to say, I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being this is a .44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk?
Now, here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty'man.
Thank you, Cecil. Well, welcome aboard the Good Ship Recovery here at TakeTwelveRadio.com on your internet dial. Welcome to the Great Reality. Marv R. is here, Bruce H. is here, and a special guest with us today, John N. is here. Hey, John.
Hey, thank you for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you think of Cecil's little interruption, Bruce?
I thought it was great. Cecil finally did something. He got out of the trivia and pulled his gun.
So Marv, when did you realize what Cecil was quoting? Did you realize what Cecil was quoting?
Yeah, but when I realized it, I'm not sure. I was intent on listening to him.
Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what Cecil was talking about here in a few minutes when we do Take 12 Recovery Trivia.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it.
So we will discuss that here in a minute. Well, hey, listen, a little recovery news in focus. Just one item. You guys know what fentanyl is? John, you know what fentanyl is?
Yes, I do.
John, you guys know? Do you know, Marv? Fentanyl is about 100 times stronger than morphine. And it comes in a patch. That's the most common way it comes for pain management. Well, heroin laced with the potent narcotic fentanyl has led to a surge of deaths from overdose, prompting the Drug Enforcement Administration to issue a nationwide warning and asking all media, radio stations, and TV to bring this to light. So we're doing that. Drug incidents and overdoses related to fentanyl are occurring at an alarming rate, said DEA Administrator Michelle Leonhardt on Wednesday, calling it a significant threat to public health and safety. Up to 100 times stronger than morphine, fentanyl is the most powerful opiate available to doctors. It is intended to treat extreme pain in patients with late-stage severe illnesses like bone cancer. But it is increasingly finding its way into illegal drugs like heroin on the black market. Seizures of illegal drugs containing fentanyl more than tripled between 2013 and 2014, according to the National Forensic Laboratory Information System, which reported 3,300 fentanyl seizures in 2014, up from 942 in 2013. That's quite a leap. These drugs, opiates, and opioids are killing people, especially when you're buying them off the street. You don't know what you're getting, said New Jersey law enforcement officer Lieutenant Juan Cullen. The drug is so strong that officials handling it in labs are warned as it may be absorbed through the skin or accidentally inhaled. Law enforcement officials across the country are cracking down. Last week, 2 men in New York were charged with dealing fentanyl-laced heroin after one of their alleged customers overdosed and died in February. According to court documents, the dealer warned his customers via text message to be careful with the heroin I just sold you. In October, 3 men were indicted in Massachusetts for dealing fentanyl and heroin following a number of overdose deaths in Salem. During the last epidemic of fentanyl-laced heroin, which occurred between 2005 and 2007, more than 1,000 people died in the Chicago, Detroit, and Philadelphia areas. So I read that because we were asked to, and a lot of people don't know what fentanyl is, but people will take the used patches, and there is a gas that can be derived from the used patches, and people get high off them. But this stuff is more dangerous than ecstasy. It's more dangerous than morphine, than heroin. It is evil, evil stuff. And I had a personal experience with this stuff years ago when I was dealing with chronic back pain, and I was managing, and I had a patch on my arm, but it wouldn't stay on my arm. It kept coming off, And so I decided I was going to be real smart and put some real strong tape over it so it would stick. And within about 30 minutes, I felt like somebody had just dipped me in a pot of boiling oil. And I ripped that sucker off, and I almost went into seizure. Well, what happens if you put tape over it, if you block it off from the sunlight, it releases immediately. And so I was in OD is what I was over the stuff, and it can kill you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's horrible. And so people are taking patches, they're finding them in the garbage, they're scraping the gel off of them and smoking them and breaking it. It's just really, really ugly stuff.
Well, just send Cecil out to the dealer's house.
That's right. Yeah, punk.
Shoot first, ask questions later, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to do that announcement about fentanyl. People, please be aware.
I don't know why they come up with this. I know it's doubled, and I listen to the numbers, and it's just way off the chart. But we've known about fentanyl for a long time now.
It's been around for quite a while.
Yeah, and we've known that it's a dangerous drug.
But people are finding another way to abuse mind-altering substances, get them in their body, or make money off them.
But it isn't like we didn't talk about these side of things. And there's things they have out now.
Right. The stuff we talked about last week, gravel. Yeah.
So it's just crazy.
It is crazy. It's insanity.
Look what they did with methadone.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, that really helped.
And everybody was warning them about this stuff.
Oh, gee. Yep, and we're now into a world of medicated assisted recovery that is not being managed well at all.
What's the name of that stuff?
Suboxone?
Yeah, Suboxone. And I'm telling you, that's really going to be a one you're going to hear about, and maybe next year or the year after, and it'll be a wave of killing people.
Because nobody's weaning anybody off this stuff, even when it is necessary. There's a treatment center up in towards Astoria. It's called Astoria Point. And when a person is in severe need of assistance, medical assistance like Suboxone, they won't even let them leave the treatment facility until they've been completely weaned off of that.
I heard a story.
That's doing it right. But a lot of places don't
I
do
heard
that.
a story last night where they was trying to talk a person into taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was doing fine on his own, and you think they'd give him some support and help him detox, and they wanted him to go on that.
Jeez. Well,
Begged him.
Big Pharma, baby. Big Pharma. All right, we're going to take our first break, come back and do Take 12 Trivia. Don't go away.
Foundations Recovery Network invites you to attend Innovations in Recovery, March 30th through April 2nd, 2015, at the prestigious Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, California. Innovations in Recovery is about the discovery and discussion of effective solutions for professionals and their patients. Professionals will learn best practices for treating co-occurring addiction and mental health disorders, process addictions, unconventional and unwilling populations, and how to facilitate a framework for the long-term recovery of their patients. To register for the Innovations in Recovery Conference, visit www.foundationsevents.com.
Serenity Springs Recovery Center, located on the beautiful east coast of Florida. A unique facility that is committed to providing exceptional individual care in small group settings while utilizing their experienced and dedicated clinical and support staff of licensed therapists and doctors. Visit their website, serenityspringsrecovery.com, or call 386-423-4540. Serenity Springs, making a life-changing investment into your recovery.
Well, zippity-doo-dah and zippity-yay. It's time for our favorite part of the show that Marv and Bruce just really, really dig. And that's Take 12 Trivia.
That's right. Take 12 Trivia brought to you by Freedom Interventions out of McMinnville, Oregon, serving the recovery community nationwide. Freedom Interventions.
Is Cecil in a recovery program?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I doubt it.
He should be.
He sure tells a lot of stories.
Well, this week is Clint Eastwood trivia. Bruce knew that was coming, right? All right, here you go. Three trivia.
44 Magnum.
Is that your word for the week?
The final answer.
That's it.
Three trivia questions and a bonus. Everybody gets to chime in on here. And I will start with John, and we'll just go around the room. Okay, what was Clint's character's name on the TV show Rawhide? Here are your three choices. Jack, as in Jack of Spades, Bart Barnes, or Rowdy Yates. What do you think there, John?
I don't know.
Are we outdating you here?
Yeah, just a little bit, but I'm gonna wing it here. I'm thinking Jack. Jack's always a good name.
Okay, Jack. What do you say, Bruce? Jack, Bart, or Rowdy?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Yeah, really.
Jeez, Bruce.
Yeah, I don't watch
That's a
it.
classic.
Add him up, get him up, add him up, get him up.
What does Marv say?
What's Marv say?
Oh, I was waiting for Bruce, but it's Rowdy for sure.
It's Rowdy Yates. Help me. Yes, it is Rowdy Yates. Absolutely. All right.
I would have followed along with Jack if I would have said anything, so I'll have to say that. My goodness.
All right. Trivia question number 2. Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef.
Another one?
Yes, we got 3 in a bonus, dude. Are you feeling lucky, punk?
Does the winner get an extra cup of coffee, or how's that work?
Huh? They get the privilege of
I hate
bragging rights.
Continuing the show.
I hate this.
Okay, Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallace played in the spaghetti western entitled The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Which one of these 3 did Clint play? The good, the bad, or the ugly?
The good.
Bruce says the good. What do you say, John?
I'd say he's pretty ugly. I'd say he played the ugly.
You played the ugly. What do you say there, Marv?
You know, that's really kind of a hard question to answer, but I'm going to go for the good.
You're going to go for the good?
Yeah.
Well, John is incorrect. Bruce and Marv are correct. He played Blondie, the good. Mm-hmm. Blondie, the good.
And then the Mexican guy was the ugly, and the
That is ridiculous.
There was one that I might have known something about, and that's what I get.
All right, here's number 3. What
44 Magnum.
What type of movie did Clint Eastwood have his first starring role? Was it a Western, a science fiction, or a love story?
I'll say love story just because it's so far-fetched.
Okay, Marv, what do you say? Western, science fiction, or love story?
Western.
What do you say, John?
Well, Marv's been leading the way so far, so I'm going to have to go with the Western, too.
Well, you guys, it was a movie called The Revenge of the Creature. It was a sci-fi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Isn't that a trip?
Yeah, a lot of people start with those, I guess.
Yeah. And it was definitely a horrible, horrible film. Okay, here's your bonus question. Clint played a starring role in what musical? And he sang in this, by the way.
Really?
Yes. Was
I wouldn't have any idea.
all right, I'll give you 3 choices. Was it South Pacific, Paint Your Wagon, or Camelot?
Paint your wagon.
Paint Your Wagon.
It had to be.
Okay.
Paint Your Wagon sounds pretty apropos.
Paint Your Wagon. What do you think, Marv? You got
Well, I'm sitting here thinking if he was in a sci-fi movie, I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't in Camelot.
Well, it was Paint Your Wagon.
Okay.
Yeah, with Lee Marvin. And by the way, Lee Marvin was intoxicated through 90% of that film.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. No, they both played Mormon opposites. It was the Mormon doctrine said you could have several wives, and Paint Your Wagon, the one wife, had the two husbands. And they were fighting over her and so forth and so on. But it was a great musical. So Paint Your Wagon was the answer to that.
Help me.
That's right. All right, that does it for Take 12 Trivia this week. Oh, Bruce. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, we'll be right back after this with
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with the foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Hello there. This is the Monty'man from Take 12 Radio. You know, men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Well, Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia is a Greek word for healing. Traditionally, classic Greek medicine was holistic. It viewed the mind and body as one. At Therapia Addiction Healing Center, they have developed a holistic healing approach to treating addiction that is designed to bring into balance the mind, body, and the spirit. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, helping people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. All right, welcome back. And the listeners probably thought I forgot, but I have not forgot. Okay, last week we talked about, we asked the question, do you think that our approach to this whole recovery deal is too hard or is it too soft? What do you think about that? And so we put out there, we kind of did a little contest, and we said the fifth email that is time-stamped as email number 5 that comes in between last week and this week is going to receive the brand new reprinted copy of the first edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which I'm holding in my hand that nobody else can see, but my co-host can. And we're going to give that away. Well, we have a winner. And the winner actually is local, which is surprising because you're never a prophet in your own home. You know, very few people locally listen to the show, but tons of people on the East Coast, Australia, Dubai, and all over the place listen. But Tony J was our winner. And this is what she said about our shows. She said, let me see my glasses, right? I'm a pretty new listener of about a couple of months. Honestly, I believe you are more in the middle when I listen. I get an outside-the-box look at everything or everyday things I hear in the rooms, my sponsor, and other alcoholics. With each show, I notice that you all go from the Big Book spectrum, then into news, findings, and into personal perspectives. The mix is well-balanced and executed as well for me. Very appreciated as I relay, what I've learned on the show to help my own sponsees. I, too, also get an educational outlook on the steps that I've never heard, learned, understood, or thought of. And it takes the tunnel vision spectacles off so I can see there is a broader vision of recovery and not get comfortable. Thank you all for what you do. You are spreading the word daily to those who need it, and that is working and spreading the word of recovery. Sincerely, Tony. So Tony gets a copy of the brand new edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a copy of the first edition. So congratulations, Tony. We will get that out to you. What a nice thing to say.
And thank you, Tony, for
Yeah.
for those words. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it
I do
encourages
too.
me to
I
go
do
on.
too.
Yeah, it really does. So awesome. So, listeners, if you would like your copy of the brand new reprinted first edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, go buy one. Okay. No, seriously, this won't be the last time we give one of those away, but you got to keep tuning into the shows to see how you can get yours. All right, this week, the promises associated with the third step was step 3. Step 3 reads, we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. We have talked before, so just to make it clear that as we understood him or as we understand him does not mean he, she, or it. It means him as in God, capital G, and it's a growing process as we continue to understand him, regardless of where that beginning comes. If it makes sense to you, it's good enough to make a start. Even if it's the pencil sitting in front of you. If that's the beginning, that's the beginning. And as we understand him is a living, breathing statement as we continue to grow in our understanding of him. So having said that, we have been talking about every step has promises. We also know every step has prayer directives. Every step has certain things associated with it, and promises are amongst that. So I'm gonna read these off really quick, and then we're gonna go back and chat about these. The promises associated with step 3, and these are all between pages 60 and 63. Here it says, and we've got a list in front of us, listeners, that God could, would if he were sought. We'll talk about what that means. Number 2, God makes that possible. We're talking about getting rid of selfishness. And number 3, most good ideas are simple. And here's the promise. This concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arc through which we passed to freedom. Number 4, when we sincerely took such a position, here's the promise, all sorts of remarkable things followed. Number 5, we had a new employer. That's a promise. Number 6, being all powerful. Here's the promise. He provided what we needed. 7, established on such a footing. Here's the promise. We became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. Number 8, the promise is more and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Number 9, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, here's the other promise. We began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. Number 10, this is an awesome promise. We were reborn. And number 11, this was only the beginning through the honesty and humility made an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. And so those are the promises kind of capsulized associated with step 3. So let's look at this first one. The sentence in context says, these are the ABCs, that we were alcoholic, could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought. The very interesting thing about that statement is that the original manuscript doesn't say that. It says that God could and would, period. Not if he were sought. And this is just my take. We'll see what you guys think. If he were sought, kind of puts it back on me. Well, you're required to seek him for him to respond. I think Bill had this right in the original manuscript. God could and would. Because I think God calls us unto himself. I don't think we, go around seeking him and then he responds. I think he is in instant response before we ever make a move towards him. Let's open that up.
I was thinking when you first started talking about this, one of the things that I have said quite often is my understanding of God is limited by my understanding of God. and really what that kind of means to me is, my understanding, maybe I need to seek. Maybe I need to study. Maybe I need to talk to people who, in my opinion, are wiser than I am. Mm-hmm. And so if he were sought, the thing about it is I think you're right. I think God calls us. We don't one day wake up and say, oh, I decided today I'm going to follow God. I think God lines up and puts situations, open doors, closes doors, and he's wooing us to him. But then, after that happens, then I realize for myself that I don't quite get it. My understanding is, and so then I have to search.
Then you have to seek more deeply. And yeah, good.
Wow.
What do you think, Bruce?
I could listen to that over and over. That was great. I love the way you put that. I also believe that we didn't seek God, that he wooed us. I like that term that you just used. One of the ways that I believe that is trying to be exposed from this book is the fact if you believed you were powerless and you understood that you needed a power, then the way you was going to clear the path was by doing the rest of these steps. That's part of the decision, to have this spiritual experience, to find out what's blocking you,
Right.
And I believe that these are biblical principles, and I believe God uses them in a way to woo you, to take you to a place where you start to understand your need for humility, where you can approach him with a different attitude. And so I think in that process, if it's done right with God's help and the leadership of someone, they're not doing it, they're just guiding you, that you'll come to a place maybe where you'll seek God with a humility that you've never been able to bring forward before, right, with a humbleness. I call it a contrite heart, is what we're looking at.
Yeah, the Bible says broken and contrite, right? Yeah. John, what's your take, man? You think we seek God? Or you think he draws us?
I think it's a double-headed coin, really. It has two sides to it. I think God is the master of attraction. He always has been, rather than promotion, kind of like the program states.
Yeah.
And, God is far-reaching. I don't think any of us can really understand. Like Marv was saying, I don't understand God, and the reason I don't understand him is because I'm limited by my understanding. But one thing that I know and I believe and hold fast is that we are free moral agents. In other words, we have choices to make. But I know that in my own recovery, God has put me in a place where my options were limited. I thank God for my recovery today, because if I wasn't in the mess, if I didn't have that thorn in the flesh, like Paul states, that addiction, to keep me humble, so I could be a part of that, and I could see that my need of humility and my need of God, but then I might not be there. And so I think, yes, is God's who initiates. I think he operates and we cooperate, and basically he's the one who knocks on that door, and then I have the choice to respond to that or ignore it, So that's kind of my belief, and that's kind of where I stand with that. So, yeah, I do believe that God could and would. And after he could and would, then I should seek, and that's my part.
Good. All right, let's move on to number 2. Above everything else, we alcoholics must be rid of selfishness. We must. There's 2 musts in one statement here. Well, there's no must in the big book. Well, yeah, there are. We must, or it kills us. What kills us? Our addiction? No, selfishness. Okay, and then it says that this getting rid of it, God makes that possible. That's the promise there. God makes that possible. Who wants to lead out on this one? Bruce, you look like you nodded.
Well,
I think it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I think as I took a look at myself and started to examine myself and seeing, I couldn't knock off that selfishness. You know what I mean? I still was selfish and self-centered. And if I looked hard enough, I could always find that. You know, I mean, it was just there if I looked hard enough. And I think at some point we had to knock it off. But what I recognized was that I did need his aid for that. Yeah, I'm talking purely on a personal level and what God has exposed to me. I think this thing runs deep. I'm even going to say this. That's who we are at our core. That's who we are, separated from God. If we're not relying upon God, who are we relying upon? You see?
And we tend to rely on all sorts of outside things.
And ourselves, basically.
And ourselves, yeah.
And our ability to conquer things. And so when I recognized that, then he became very precious to me. You know, I started to see the value in him. You know, so
absolutely.
And my whole attitude towards him changed, and I had a need. See.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Marv, you're saying that getting rid of selfishness is a process.
Yes.
Yeah, ongoing.
I know it is for me.
Yeah. It's new every morning, just like His grace, right?
Yes. You've heard of that book? It come out years ago. The Road Less Traveled.
Right.
Well, the author of that talks about our worldview, you know, as individuals, and so what that encompasses is our experience. And part of what that book did for me, I've read it several times, as a matter of fact, is it changed what I had experienced. What he was trying to do was change my view, basically, of life. And that, what am I trying to say? That was a process for me. Now, if an alcoholic sitting around a table comes in the rooms and you know, this isn't, boom, it happens, you know. Oh, yeah, God made that possible. Well, he does, but it's going to be in direct ratio of how we go through this process to change our worldview based on our experience. I think.
And it actually kind of touches on that in the appendix in the back. It talks about spiritual experiences. Because there was a tendency in the first printing of this thing to think that we all had to have this white light experience like Bill W. had.
Right.
And that more often than not, it's of the educational variety. It's a process. But I will tell you, I have known people that for whatever reason, God thought it was absolutely imperative that person have that white light experience or that burning bush experience. There have been people like that.
Yes.
That didn't happen to me. But some people, I think, and Bill was one of them, are so close to death's door that God had to intervene now. Boom. You know, but you're right. I think most of the time, there's a process and even after the white light experience or the burning bush, there's a continued process. And we talk about that in steps 10, 11, and 12, that it's not a maintenance program, that it's a process of continual growth. So I think we're always growing and maturing and changing.
I agree with this. I don't believe in this. First, I'll say that I don't believe in this let go and let God thing. I think we play a part. But I think our part is to become a vessel, broken bread, poured out wine, whatever you want to call it, you know, that God can work in. And it seems to me that the way he does that is through a person who has humility. You know what I mean? I don't think he just, he resists the prideful and embraces the humble. You see what I mean? And I think the book is really crystal clear about the promise it's talking about here. And it's not talking about us practicing something. Okay? Listen to this. It says that we must or it kills us. God makes that possible. That was your promise.
Right.
And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even to reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help.
So this reminds me.
Now, I think Marv is right. I think we play a part.
Yeah.
But I believe unless we understand and see that he has to be there to accomplish this work.
What are you thinking, John?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm new to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I remember reading in the rooms that the promises are fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but they do come if we work for them. And so for me, looking at that God makes that possible, and he does. What does he make possible? To me, be rid of this selfishness. And it is ongoing. I think it's a combination of the both. Sometimes you have these power encounters, and then other times you have the daily grind of working it out and working your program and taking my sponsor tells me all the time, it's an action. It's not just something you sit back and do. I was reading in more about alcoholism yesterday and talked about a guy named Jim. This was his story. He had lots of self-knowledge. He was aware he was an alcoholic. He knew all about himself, but it was insufficient. It wasn't enough to drive it home for him and to make that decision. And that's where that powerless comes into play. And so for me, when I look at it, I'm a very selfish individual. But every day, God makes it possible for me to grow out of that into something else in my recovery.
Oh, well said. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. Very well said. Okay. I love this. It continues on. Most good ideas are simple in this concept, and here's the promise. This concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. All right. We know that a keystone or a cornerstone or the main, the beginning piece, the foundation, everything else is set to that. And if that's off, the rest of the building's off, right?
Right.
Okay, but so my question is, this concept was the keystone. What concept? What concept are we talking about, Bruce? Is it the God concept?
The concept or the idea that we had to stop playing God.
Ah. And don't we play God when we think we can do this on our own power?
And yeah.
Absolutely.
When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed.
Yes, it talks about God was going to be the director. He was the principal. Yeah. And that's the things they're talking about this keystone. And you know what the keystone is? It's more than it's talking about the foundation. The keystone is the piece. It's put in the top of the arch that the rest of the arch lays against. And that's the strength of the arch.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that's not the right keystone...
if it's not put in place, then the arch would tumble.
And the arch can look really good for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's going to fall apart. And we see it all the time. People grasping at weird stuff to try and get healthy.
So if we go back to what Marv was talking about, because I think he's really onto that piece of that. And if we're trying to build this thing, aren't we trying to build a relationship and an understanding of God? And this is the process we start by which we grow.
Absolutely.
Babe, if we kind of like understand what step 1 and step 2 are all about. And now here we are in step 3, we got these promises. But to do that, for that to be fulfilled, we have to start learning to trust this power.
Yeah.
Whatever our concept of that is.
We had a new employer. That's a powerful statement, because when I think of an employer, I think of a lot of things. I think of, okay, he knows what he's doing when it comes. When I went to work in retail and I was on my first day, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to operate a pricing gun, let alone stock shelves. I had no clue. And so I was assigned somebody that was over me, that trained me and told me, and I didn't say, well, I don't really think that that's the way you should do that. I didn't know. So he told me. So he showed me. He told me. He taught me. I came alongside him. I stuck next to him. He was my employer. He was my boss. I think, and I'm speaking to people of faith now when I make this statement. Lots of times we accept the Lord as our Savior, but not our Lord. You know what I mean? I mean, he saves me, but am I really going to follow his directions? Am I really going to follow what he's telling me to do? And this says we had a new employer. That suggests I had an old employer.
Don't you think that this is where the battle really is?
Oh, yeah.
Because this kind of like, if you're anything like me, this is kind of like rubbing against me skin a little bit, like sandpaper. Because, and the reason it is because, see, I don't do it well. Because I've been trusting me. I haven't been trusting God or trusting in a higher power or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I was just like here. I had to stop playing God. See, it was all about me.
And isn't that really the first actual directive in the big book is we had to stop playing God? Mm-hmm. That's like the first instruction. Okay, here's the first thing.
To a spiritual life.
To a spiritual life, right. Right.
Yeah.
Marv, what do you think about this new employer thing? Did you have an old employer?
Yeah, I did.
How was that working for you?
Not too good.
They didn't pay you on time. They kept threatening to kick you to the curb, right? You never had any real healthy benefits.
It's going through my little pea brain about this process thing. The new employer, if by the time we get to this point, we've had some experience going down the road and mm-hmm. trying in our human way to trust in God and all that stuff, and at least I have found out that I was missing the mark. The more that I keep trying to find the boss, the more I realize how far I fall short of the mark. Mm. And the one thing about this new boss we got is he doesn't lay us off. He doesn't fire us. Mm. He continually, day in and day out, shows us mercy, forgiveness, love, loving kindness. And even though I know, wow, I'm falling way short of the mark.
Right.
In fact, a lot of times it's kind of like trying to saddle a dead horse. You might get the job done, but you ain't going to get very far. And sometimes that's what I feel like with God.
Yeah.
That I'm just striving and struggling and trying the best I can. And the thing about it is, it's not me.
Maybe
it's all God.
Mm. Yeah, there you see that's
and I need to just say, yeah, boss, I'm with you.
Yeah,
it's really hard to knock off the struggle and to trust in what He's done.
Yeah.
Hey, John, so you ever felt like you're trying to saddle a dead horse?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not as fun as you think.
No, but, and the harder you try, the older and stinkier they get, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I was thinking too. When we have a new employer, that means we have a new job to do. Typically when you have a new employer, you have a new job, you have a new position. You may be taking off in a different career field. And when it comes to what they're talking about here, it's definitely a different career field. And you're gonna have new supervisors, i.e., my sponsor. sometimes you don't see eye to eye, because I've been under this old employer for so long, and I've been walking in that way for so long, and how they do things. Every company has a set of core values or beliefs or the way they operate, and when I get this new employer, I've got to change everything. And that's not easy. And like Bruce was saying, that rubs against like skin against sandpaper. Why? Well, because I got a lot of ego. I got a lot of selfishness. I got a lot of pride. I got a lot of things going against this, But one thing that I do, is understanding that this is my new employer. If I want to live, then I'm going to do what he asked me to do, and I'm going to do what the other people that he's put under him asked me to do as well. And so kind of that's what I think about that, and I think that's a great promise to hold on to.
Wow, that was good. That was really good. He provided what we needed. He provided what we needed. I'm always running around. That's why I love the chapter We Agnostics, because I can be agnostic at a flip of a coin. Why am I going through this? Where did you go, God? How come my finances aren't being taken care of? And then tomorrow I'm like, God is all powerful and He provides what I need.
That particular one is has a requirement with it.
Yeah, and I kind of take exception to that requirement.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Okay, I think what the requirement is it says if we keep close to Him and perform His work well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the requirement says if, means it's conditional. So why do you have a problem with that? Because I kind of do too.
Where's grace? Where's grace in all that? If our works are part of the requirement.
Okay, then I'll tell you what my take on that is, because I struggled with that very thing, and that's why I believe today, okay, that if we stay close to Him and performed His work well, what they're talking about is living out of the blessing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What He's done for us. Mm-hmm. That He's the employer. You know what I mean? He's the Father. He's the principal. We're His agents, and live out of those blessings that He's given us, and that'll provide us with a new way of doing things. Instead of being selfish and self-centered, we're of service. We're trying to be of service.
I see what Marv's saying, though, because and this always did bother me a little bit.
Because we think it's work-based.
Yeah, right. Because it's like, okay, I have to, because see, I was told that by Shame-Based Ministries years ago. That sounds like an actual ministry, doesn't it? Shame-Based Ministries Incorporated. That the reason that God did not provide for me was because I wasn't doing it good enough.
Yeah, see, I don't believe that.
I don't either.
I think that's a bunch of garbage.
But I think that we can misunderstand it and think that's what this kind of says, right, Marv?
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Right.
And I lived miserably because of it. I believed that life for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
see, stuck in my rut.
Yeah, because we're doing something to get something, and we always seem to fall short in it, and we don't get what our little hearts desire. But if we're doing something because of what's been given to us, that's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
And if as far as that grace thing, Marv, goes, it's really a hard thing for me, because I believe that you can't add to or take away from grace, or it's no longer grace.
That's right.
One thing to kind of go alongside with this too, I think, is the principle of reaping and sowing. If you sow a certain kind of seed, you're going to get a certain kind of plant out of it. You can't plant a pineapple and expect a cherry tree. And so, for me personally, when I'm sowing into my recovery, what I sow in is going to come back out. If I'm not staying connected to God, and I'm not working my program and my steps, I'm not calling my sponsor and doing those things that I do for my spiritual health, then I know that I'm going to reap the consequences. I'm going to reap what I sow from that as well. And so when I think about that, He provided what I needed. He does provide what I need. And when I keep close to Him, it's for sure thing. It's when I stray. Now, as far as performing His work well, I can't say much about that one, because I'm not there yet. But one thing's for sure is when I stay close to Him, that's where I practice that peace and serenity, that they talk about in the rooms and in the program.
Aren't we trying to honor him at this station and
Yes.
and what we're doing here. And I think that each one of us is trying to do that. And I think that's where we're trying to perform his work. And as we grow and we understand him, and then we start to live out of those wonderful acknowledgments,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's what we do. But I'm not against what you guys are saying. I think that it seems like a work-based thing, and most people believe it. That they have to do this, or they have to add to it. They're adding to it because they think that it's they play a part in this thing. See, I don't think we do. I think what I mean by that is we have to learn how to live out of what he's done,
Right.
what he's provided.
Right. And that's kind of a tricky statement because you say because we play a part, yet we don't play a part. Well, it's what we're playing a part in that we're talking about, right? I mean, it's like what John was saying. He's got to participate. He's got to be an active participant. Otherwise, we could just read the instructions and just not do them. And then we're falling into that. Well, let go and let God. So I'm just going to let go, not do anything, and let God, depend on God. But on the other hand, is it by our works that we receive, or is it by His grace?
I think it's by grace.
I think it's by grace too, and I think it's out of our gratitude for that we do our works.
Right.
It's kind of tricky. I think this is, and Marv makes a really good point, because I think this is why it's important to have a sponsor walk through this book with you, because otherwise that could be very well interpreted as, well, he's not going to provide what you need unless you do his work well.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't think that's what it's saying. I'd almost, to tell you the truth, I'd almost reword that a little bit. I don't like the way that says that, but that's right. That's just me.
That's good.
Well, and another thing, Monty, I think it's important to put an emphasis on he provided what we needed. In our society today, it's the I want and I want it now.
Very true.
Type thing. And all these high expectations and advertisements, and you can have this brand new beautiful sports car or quarter horse or whatever. All you gotta do is make $50 a month payments, boom, boom, boom. And that's not what God's providing. He's looking out
Right.
for us and providing what we need.
So that word "needed" almost ought to be capitalized, underlined 3 times, and
Yeah, I think it's important, and I get caught in that trap.
sure.
Myself. I want to move to Eastern Oregon. I want to do it now. My place isn't selling.
Yeah.
Is
Right.
God providing what I need? Sure. I got food. I have enough physical ability to keep working with the horses.
Mm-hmm.
And electricity, and on and on and on. Yes, He is providing what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. We're almost out of time, but I really want to. I can't not cover this. It talks about more and more we became interested in seeing what we would contribute to life. So that's part of that. Our behaviors and stuff are out of our gratitude for what He's done. As we felt new power. Now this is my take. Okay, as we felt new power flow in. For me, that was the Spirit of God flowing in. As we enjoyed peace of mind, which He gave me. As we discovered we could face life successfully. As we became conscious of His presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. Later on, in working the fear inventory, he talks about that very thing again. He talks about how fear begins to leave us when we're doing that inventory. He's remarkable. He repeats the same things over again using different words. I love it. And then he says these 3 words that are huge. We were reborn. That either is literal or it's not. And I think it's literal. I'm not talking about literal as entering into the womb again a second time, but I'm talking about my thinking has changed. My outlook has changed. So much of me has changed.
What if it's just a simple fact that you're reborn spiritually, that now that you have the capacity to develop and grow in a spiritual walk?
I think that's exactly what's talking about.
How about this spiritual experience or this spiritual awakening that they claim that we have? And I think it's as a result of the principles, okay? And I have we'll wait till we get there. It's just the way I think we say things shows me who we are. Like we do this and we start to lose our fear, you know? I don't believe that's what it says, and that's what it means. You know what I mean? It's the minute that we put ourselves in His hands, we start to lose
our fear.
You start to lose fear. It's not the do this,
not the pen to paper.
It's that. And if you've experienced that, I was very terrified of God and very scared of people, and I reacted behind fear. I would get in fights behind fear. I would run out of fear. I would hide because I was afraid of what people would think of me because I ran, the fear of that. It would just multiply and get bigger.
Right.
But the minute that I put myself in His hands, that started to go away. Fear does not conduct my life. It doesn't run my life today.
Right.
See, so, and I think we have to experience that, and I think that's what Marv was talking about, that as we grow in these experiences, so now we want to grow in these spiritual experiences, see if they work. And how are you going to know it unless you walk out and open the glove compartment?
That's it. You got to go look at it, investigate,
So you take these steps and see if that's true.
Yeah.
It's not the steps. See, you have to actually participate in this thing and ask Him, learn to walk with Him and trust Him, and then that takes place.
The last one here says, this was only the beginning. Though if honestly and humbly made, an effect, sometimes a very great one, was felt at once. Doesn't say every time, but it says sometimes. It was felt at once. Something happened in me. I can't pinpoint it. I don't know what it was, other than it was providence. It was the hand of God. Something happened to me when I sat down, and my sponsor took me out to a little bridge in Brownsville. And with a little Bic lighter in each of our hands, we lit the lighter. And I remember my thumb was burning like crazy. And we went through the third step prayer. He prayed it, I prayed it, and then he asked me to put it in my own words and pray it. Something happened to me on that bridge. I am telling you. And I know for everybody it's different. But more than my thumb being burned off from the heat of the stupid lighter, something happened in my heart. And I had been a Christian for years.
Yeah. I did all 12 steps. It took me about, I was back in the program about 14 months. And I was in step 12, and I knew there was something wrong. I wasn't having no spiritual experience. And I went back to step 3, all the way back to step 3, and I did step 3 again. But I did it. And I did turn my will and my life over to the care of God, okay, as my Lord and my Savior.
Yeah.
Okay. And from that moment on, I've been on the path that I'm on today.
And I think that's interesting, too, that, you touch on that. You went all the way back to step 3. And for me, I look at my life and I say, yeah, me too. Step 3 is everything. What does surrender look like? What does turning my will over look like? When you run into somebody who's really done that, what does that look like in their life? And looking back on mine, I can see that, I like to pick it up and put it down. I'll surrender this, and then I won't surrender that. God will give you this, but hey, if you let me keep that, and I play this like a bargain chip or something. But with recovery, it's all or nothing. Either you're in or you're out. Either you're alive or you're dead. And that's just my take. That's my belief on it and kind of what I've experienced in my own life.
Wow. Well, you guys, we're out of time. Any closing thoughts? Any closing pieces of wisdom?
I'd like to hear Marv's thoughts on that.
Marv?
As we close today. He's been sitting there really quiet on the end of this one.
Well, sometimes it pays to listen, you know.
Number one cop out.
Good answer.
Actually, the reason I'm hesitating to answer or make any comment is because right now I'm kind of in the middle of something, and I can say this about that. We, and I need to be careful not to say we, I believe that part of my dilemma is not giving totally to Christ. And that's, without beating any bushes, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So I have been doing some research trying to, and Monty mentioned it earlier, the Spirit of God. And I mentioned it earlier about how I realize as we go down this road how far short of the mark I fall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at. I'm in this dilemma. I'm trying to figure it out. And I think I'm getting closer, but it's real simple. I have not completely given up and given it to Christ.
If you know that, you're in a good place.
I don't know that I am or not, but
it's hard, but it's good.
I think there's stages, Monty, that we go through, and I'm in one of those stages, and God's trying to do something in my life, and maybe I'm not aware of it, but I'm fighting it. I don't want to give up, but at the same time, I realize the desperation of not giving up.
Wow.
So that's why I hesitated, just to be real honest with you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Well, I think every one of us has been there, man. I think that's what the spiritual war is all about, is the prayer in the third step is about relieving me the bondage of self, not wanting to give up, not wanting to surrender, to keep, a part of this control. That's what we're asking him to do. We're not asking him to relieve us of the bondage of alcohol, but the root cause of it.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So, I think Marv is just right in the middle of this thing, and I'm glad he spoke that and give us that to ponder over.
That's rigorous honesty, right?
Mm-hmm. You bet.
Okay, I'm tempted to read the third step prayer. I'm not going to do it. I think before we get in next week when we start talking about the promises associated with step 4, we'll start off with the third step prayer, and I'll tell you why next week. Well, I'll give you a hint. Because I don't think we can launch out. Because it says next week launched. That's an Air Force term, means 0 to 200 immediately. Next we launched on our vigorous course of action. Okay, so I don't think we can launch unless we're launching from a secure launch pad. And I think that launch pad is that third step prayer and what's in there. So I think to start out on the promises of the fourth step, I think it'd be a great place to launch forth from that third step prayer. So that's what we're going to do next week.
Okay.
All right. All right. John, thanks for being with us, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Monty. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Marv.
And thank you, Cecil.
And thank you, Cecil. Poor Cecil. Oh, Cecil. Okay, who knows what kind of trivia or giveaways we'll do next week. You'll have to tune in. I will be giving something away next week, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you're curious, check us out. Don't forget to email us here at take12radio@comcast.net. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, all those places. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, along with John, Bruce, and Marv, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity